Hello, 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 and welcome. This is the second in a series, and if you haven't heard the first, you will want to listen to that before this so that it anchors in. Welcome. I'm Sherry Hemstreet of thesherryhemstreet.com, and today we talk about how I didn't want to be chosen like this. This isn't a teaching. This isn't a lesson. This is a page from the middle of my story. The part where everything you thought you needed is taken. I didn't want to be chosen like this. I didn't want to become her like this, but apparently my soul did, and this is what God gave me in return. If you are in the unraveling, the void, the liminal space, the part where you're praying for clarity and getting silence, the part where you look around and every which way you turn, the door closes. This is for you. Not to fix it, not to reframe it, but to sit with you as you experience this, to walk with you through the fire, to remind you that what's being broken is not your life, it's your limitation. I didn't want to be chosen like this. What God took from me to give me my life back is the second in a series. And the truth is, most people don't want to go through the pain. They prefer it only take a season, 3 months, coaching, goals, achievement. Living life in 90-day increments is so common, so normal, so expected for high achievers. Living life in year-long increments is the cycle for people who aren't sure where they are going and what they are doing. The fact of the matter is that while we do tend to live life through quarters, through cycles, through seasons, through coaching, through goals, through achievement, it took me 1 year. There was no 90-day marker, 90-day success story, not once. 1 year of pain, of transformation, of letting go. And I was never more aligned, never more locked in, and yet reconciling the human, the spirit, the truth, and the physical world were so damn important. Shedding who I was an act of rebellion. My skin didn't want to leave. Like a snake shedding its skin, it didn't happen at all like that. That would have been natural, that would have been easy, that would have been preferable. For me, my skin fought to hold me, contained, every fiber of my being locked in. My identity didn't want to change. I have always been some version of who I had been. Sure, some things had changed slowly over time, like a jagged rock and the gentle and trickling stream. No one thinks much of the small changes it takes years to make. They make sense. We call it growing. 18 turns into 22, 22 turns into 28. Before you know it, we're 36, 40, 42, 44. And somewhere along the line, all of the small changes make sense. But if you are already grown up, if you have already lived what feels like a lifetime, done the work, and then you are required to change in 1 year, it's absolutely monumental. In fact, it is so easy to make the changes that fall under the guise of growing up. We have decades. We have time. And time is the transformation. But when you add the pressure of your purpose and calling to it, it changes. we enter our 20s. We stop going out so much because we get married. We want to buy a house. We start looking at investing and retirement. We start moving into and toward our next life. It seems like a natural unfolding. The next version of ourselves just magically kind of reappears. We step into it. We calibrate. We make a few changes. Nothing drastic. We are who we've always been. It's slow, like a gentle stream on a jagged rock. 5, 10, even 20 years later, the small, sharp ends are now softened and rounded. The jagged pieces no longer are there. The gentle stream has worn the sharpest, most jagged parts away, and we learn to work in and with the world. We become suitable and know how to navigate it. Our edges are softened. The process was slow. We moved toward our version of ourselves we desired to be, and crucifixion is anything but slow. And yet, it took me 1 full year to do what Jesus did in 40 days. I can't imagine the pain of doing it in 40 days. 1 full year felt like seclusion. It was tormenting. The minute I had something to say, I was no longer the person who resonated with it. The minute I had something to offer, something to teach, it was gone just as soon as it arrived. The death and rebirth began happening so rapidly that I just stopped. It was death daily by 1,000 cuts. It was a journey through the inferno of life that burned away every shred of what could not remain, what was not able to move with me to my next level, my next destination, my next truth had to be annihilated, ceased to exist. I'm not talking about small reinventions. I wish I were. I wish it was. I wish it had been. I mean, not really, but like, in the moment I did, right? I'm talking about several years of ego deaths, literally not knowing who I was in some ways. And this is not reclamation. This was the journey of crucifixion. This was simply walking, carrying my cross. I hadn't yet been crucified. That would take all of 2025. But the 2 years leading up to it, before that, walking, carrying my cross, the complete wilderness, wandering, unknowing, and yet knowing just enough to ground me. All of it began before the crucifixion, but the last 365 days were the intensity. There was nothing left of me at one point. I remember being so broken that surrender was the only option. And it wasn't a broken that I had experienced before. I wonder if I could have made it easier on myself, I'm certain. But then that wouldn't have been my journey. The changes in these years were easily marked, and I moved through them. Last year was breaking out of my own skin from the inside out. Killing my own identity, my own self. It wasn't renewal. It was complete death. And now, in rising, I know differently than before. My wisdom has depth and breadth. My soul has a frequency of resonance. My body has a different tone of truth. My mind is renewed to the mind of Christ. And yet my human still exists. There is still a battle. I have had experiences from God that have surpassed even the extraordinary experiences I previously had and understood. Supernatural is too simplistic to explain it. Having God, the divine creator, be your teacher is extraordinary and incomprehensible. Having direct leadership to the creator to lead me through divine and transcendental experiences, to teach me the ways of what is, to show me the intertwinings of how we operate in the universe and how we fit into it, mind-blowing, Literally mind-blowing. I can't even, why? Like, I can't even, how? I can't even comprehend or understand it. The lessons where I was asked to dedicate a weekend and learn. Why was I chosen? Because I sat waiting on God? Because I was open? Because I was available? I don't know. I don't know many that really want this journey. But every journey looks like that. The revelation of the structure of the universe being shown to me is beyond what I thought I would ever be given. I spent more than 40 years waiting on God, daily, repeatedly, leaving God, denouncing God, turning my back on God. And I'm still here. Turning my back on Jesus, denouncing Jesus, denouncing spirituality, turning my back on spirituality. I felt like a woman who could not make up her mind, and I was still in the experimental phase of the 3-5 line. It was like nothing I had ever experimented with before. So of course I have to say no to everything I think I know to see if it holds true. I can't just go, oh, well, I had these supernatural, these transcendental experiences. God himself taught me things. No. I don't get to say, well, obviously that was enough for me. No. My husband used to joke. We were listening to someone who said there are those people who can read the sign that says not to pee on the electric fence. And then there are those people that can watch someone pee on the electric fence and they know not to do it. And then there's me. I have to identify and confirm the actual pain that I should not do what the sign says, right? There is me that has to experience it so that I know that it's real. And then denounce it and then do it 2 more times. I used to joke that I had to do everything 3 times, even if I didn't like it, because then I knew for sure it wasn't for me. 40 years. Even before that, even as a child, waiting on God. Was I the prodigal daughter? No. You cannot leave yourself. You cannot extricate yourself from that which you are. You may sever your arm from your being, but it doesn't change the eternal, the infinite that you are. It's small and inconsequential. The arm is not it. I am that I am, and you are that you are, and the appearance of that is ever changing. The truth is beyond change. The absolute truth is, anyway, beyond change. There are many truths, and you will take on many different truths as you get there. Some will battle. Some will resist. Some of the truths you will battle. Some of the truths you will resist. Others will fall easily into place. The surrender can seem impossible, too painful, too much. It's not that God will never give you more than you can bear. I know that people love to say that. They want it to be true. They want to believe that they're these ever-strong beings. It's that your life is the mirror of Jesus Christ. Let that sink in. Your life is the mirror of Jesus Christ. It's a parallel. We complain and avoid small inconveniences. We avoid discomfort. We are here to mirror the life of Jesus Christ, to walk parallel. One by one, we will all be called to have the same experience in our own pattern, our own way, that is unique to us. The hardships we faced before that will seem minuscule after, but before, impossible. They will seem insurmountable. We will stack pain and cry out to God. How much more? In fact, this reminds me of the story of Job, who cried out to God, how much more? You can find this in chapter 30, verses 20 through 27. If you have your Bible and want to look that up, now would be a good time. But we cry out thinking we aren't being heard, thinking Creator is not answering. Verse 20, I cry out to you, God, but you do not answer. I stand up, but you merely look at me. Job goes on to illustrate all that God has allowed him to experience, assigning it to God. How often do we do that? How often do we think that God is causing us pain? How often do we think God is forsaking us? How often do we think that God is the one dropping the burden upon us? Verse 21, you turn on me ruthlessly. With the might of your hand, you attack me. That is so powerful to me and so misguided. You cannot turn upon yourself. You cannot attack yourself. One hand does not attack its owner. Job was so misgiven. Job was so confused. He was so short-sighted. Verse 23, I know you will bring me down to death, the appointed place for all of the living. And this is true. Death is part of the transformation for the living. But it is not the entirety of the timeline. Verse 24, surely no one lays a hand on a broken man when he cries for help in his distress. This man is just lamenting and lamenting that God is just pouring more and more upon him. He cannot see his own troubles are his own doing. He cannot see that in each of these burdens, in each of these catastrophes, in each of these moments that he is going through, that started out easy, God has given him an invitation to come up to a higher level, to know a greater level of power, a greater level of truth. And until Job or we accept the invitation to turn our pain into power, the cycle repeats. Job has had many invitations for him to turn this into power. But you cannot turn something into power if you continue to blame God, because in that you are not recognizing your truth. Verse 25, have I not wept for those in trouble? Has my soul not grieved for the poor? He weeps for himself. He grieves for himself. He thinks himself and the poor and the troubled are completely powerless. He doesn't see life as it is. He doesn't see people or himself as they are. He sees them how he thinks they are. Verse 26, yet when I hoped for good, evil came. When I looked for light, then came darkness. Verse 27, the churning inside of me never stops. Days of suffering confront me. It's here that Job goes on to rant at God, telling him about every unjust moment he has suffered as the servant of God at the hand of God. Job refused the invitation. Job refused his crucifixion. Job refused his own ego death. Job refused to release his own righteousness. Job's life, like our own, is the mirror of Jesus Christ. Jesus had to be crucified to rise beyond the spirit into his next transformation. The life of Jesus lived is the blueprint you are given, the mirror for you to reflect on. Most people know Job from the Bible as the faithful servant of God, and Jesus from the Bible as the Son of God, made man. The truth is, both are the same. Jesus could have chosen to cry, to be beaten down by the physical life, as Job did. He chose differently. Job chose the same, repeatedly. Jesus chose a higher way of being. Job chose to be who he had always been. We think Jesus had the harder life, the excruciation of the crucifixion being beyond what any of us would choose to endure. And yet we think that Jesus had no option. We ask, why didn't he remove himself? As the Son of God, he turned water into wine. He revealed miracles everywhere. It's simple. He knew truth. He knew his destiny, his calling, his purpose from God. His purpose was the reward. Removing himself would have only made it so that he kept having the invitation delivered over and over, invitation after invitation, with each experience of life pressing down harder. He knew the invitations would come until he was called to be who he was here to be and accepted it. Until he surrendered. Until he chose his purpose, his destiny, his calling above all else. The problem with everything we think we understand about Jesus and his life here on earth in recorded history is what we think he became when he was born or began in the womb. We think his life ended at his last breath when he claimed, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." We think Jesus is asking for their soul to be forgiven for killing the Son of God. Jesus, like you, expressed part of his timeline to us. The life you are living is a very small part of your timeline. The great fallacy that we die and that is the end of our timeline is a human deception. We transform just as we did to enter the womb. Our timeline is a series of transformations. We are eternal, infinite. This human experience is just a small part of life. Our life is the mirror of Jesus Christ. Job struggled with that. I know. I also struggled with that until I didn't. Each moment is a point of power. Each moment is a choice. Each moment allows you to rewrite the story you live, the life you lead. Each moment carries the power of choice to redirect and change your external world to match your internal world. And when that happens, you gain power over both your external and internal world. You unlock truth at a higher frequency. You gain wisdom that wasn't even available before, because the answer is always to come up to a higher level. And when you change how your external world looks and operates, you open the portal to your own mastery, your own inner power. And with that, you begin to process and begin the process of rising in power, in frequency, in truth, in mastery. And as you gain your own mastery and understanding of your truth, you have more leverage over your reality. Mirror the life of Job and be ordinary, average, dismayed. Mirror the life of Job and be dissatisfied, hurt, upset, suffer. Avoid the leverage. Mirror the life of Jesus and you will have your reward. Jesus was the masterpiece of God. He did unimaginable acts of miracles. You are the masterpiece of God. What will your miracles be? If you're in your own crucifixion but no one around you gets it, you're not crazy, you're not broken, you are being rebuilt. Comment or share if you know this is you. Let me know if this is you. You are the masterpiece of God. And remember, you are love and you are loved. I am Sherry Hemstreet of thesherryhemstreet.com. Thank you for being here with me.